So we got notified about that, and then we terminated the contract with them. And then we rented out to another family. It's been almost 3 years for 36 months, and I have the contract too. And last year, we got tickets, we got citation. So, actually, we called in from Vietnam. We called to the person that wrote the tickets. We let him know that, okay, the house is not doing Airbnb, because every time we come, we came and checked. They have a husband and wife and 2 little kids. And so we talked to the person that gave the tickets over the phone from Vietnam. And he's like, oh, I found it because the ad is still online. So we didn't even know the first person that rented the house anymore. So, and he said that you're the owner, so you're responsible to take down the ads. Otherwise, the city gonna continue to give you a ticket, because we got 2 tickets for $2,000. So, so after talking to him, and then we were able to locate the person through one of the website online, and then back her that, okay, so you used to rent our house. Now we have the problem with the city. They keep giving us tickets even though that the house is not being doing Airbnb. So, and then they remove it. And then, so we learned the lesson, and we want to do everything legally. So we even came to the city and applied for the permits to do long-term rental, because I have it right here, and I have the contract here. But I came back to the city, showing them the contract, showing them this, and they say that they don't know. You know, they can't resolve this for me, so I don't know. I strongly disagree with the short-term rental, even though I don't live in Garden Grove, but I highly support that. That's the reason why that we apply for the long-term permits rental. And when we pay tax, we do everything. It's the privilege, you know, it's very fortunate for us to be here in this country, and then we would do anything that is right, that it should support the city, you know. So that is it, and I have the paperwork here in case you need that. Yeah. Okay. So
Okay, thank you. Joseph, no?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. On behalf of the Vietnamese in District 4, I would like to talk to you about the safety of the District 4. You know, for 5 years, Mr. Bui working on Garden Grove City, and just last 6 months, a lot of crime in the city of Garden Grove and his district, rob and kill, shot and kill, and stab and kill. A lot of people die because he not care about the city, the people in the neighbor in the city. And like what you see here, that I have this one here because, you know, on July, he support Mr. Billionaire Hoàng Kieu and Title from City Council of Westminster to support one of the entertainment. And he let the people, like more than 3,000 people stay at the port in Garden Grove Port, and allow 60 birds there. During the traffic, a lot of construction there too. So I think that he's the city council, he have to know that this one have to, you know, go to city council and have permit and let them port there and use that port, because that's a public port, not for, you know, the people who use that port to do entertainment. But this entertainment is a lot of people, the Vietnamese people hate it because this entertainment. Hoàng Kieu is a billionaire, Phat Bui and Taido and others united from Westminster, and they make the Westminster Chow, and they try to talk bad about the Mayor Chita and other city council in Westminster on that day. From now on, so that's why, and they lose the test parades. And now I heard that they go to Garden Grove and asking for the same thing, and they planning to do the test parades on City Garden Grove. But last year, I heard Phat Bui told the people on the media, he said that his campaign, his organization don't own nothing to the city of Westminster. He liar because the city of Westminster asked them to pay like $8,000. They say that they lost $8,000. So that's why my mayor asked the city to forgive them $7,000 for the last test period. So I don't think he's a good leader. So that's why when I bring up the record and I go to the neighborhood of the city district 4, City Garden Grove, a lot of people complain, unsafe, a lot of homeless now, and the city council doesn't get involved and defend for them because they want to block the street on, exit to the trash. A lot of people there, neighbors there, they worry about if block that street, gonna be getting stuck. So that's why, and like I found out everything here in my record, and I say that Fat Bui lied to people that he have an engineering degree, BS degree, but he don't. And also he worked with the Vietnamese community. He organized like the country. He asked people to vote, supposed to vote when you put a lot of voting place, you have to ask a permit. Like even to put a voting place in Westminster and on counties, San Bernardino, San Diego, but they don't do any permit for that. After they collecting the vote, and the group belong to him keep the vote for 2 months and make the community upset about that. And after that, he's the one to become the leader of the group. And I think that guy, he's the very stupid, idiot when he do this thing. And also, he sit down with the communists and working with the communist people. Right now, Hoàng Kiều, he working with the communists in the country, and he coming here, he say he a billionaire, he give a lot of money for people to broken the community here. So that's why when I come to the United States, I have to raise my hand. I am not working with the communists. I am not support the communists. He also like that. I think when he work in the communists, when he defend for the communists, and also Taido, he's the one who harmed me when I got on Facebook, and also that's why. And also when I found out he's a killer, so he's a killer. So then. The time enough?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Beatrice Rodriguez? I can't read the last, so I might have screwed that up.
So, my name is Beatrice Rodriguez. I live at 10141 McMichael Drive in Garden Grove. I've been there since 1972. And some 20 years ago, somebody decided to put a nice little sign out in our street that blocks Chapman Avenue. You got to pull out in the street to see where you're going. Well, it was a nice sign some 20 years ago. Now it's falling apart and it looks like crap, which is okay because now the neighborhood also is not looking that good. In the past couple of years, I have reported 3 B&Bs in our neighborhood. 2 of them are already, one of them was next door to me, and now I have a nice family. They've signed a lease for a year, and it's long-term. Then I reported another one on Edgewood, and that's also a long-term, I believe. Now, at least I don't see the cars coming in and out. It was a very nice little neighborhood. It goes from Chapman to Rosalie or Hill. It's just a nice little neighborhood community. A lot of them were custom-built homes. We raised our kids. The park is there. It's really nice. Now I'm taking over with B&Bs. Now the problem is I've already reported 3 of them, and the 3rd one is still there. So we have had, in the past 6 months, we've had 8 motorcycles come in and spend the weekend there. And we've had, every weekend, it's a different set of cars that come in and go. We've had buses come in on the street, drop party loads off of people. It's a really nice house that they're renting, and we're close to Disneyland, so really I can't blame them. But the garbage cans are overfilling every week. The traffic that comes on our street is horrendous, and besides that, you don't know who's coming in and out of your neighborhood. We've been there for over 40 years, and I don't want to live like this anymore. Now, one of the problems I've also called about is a house down the street from me is 10171. I can't say it's a B&B because they actually live there. The people live in the house, but you know, we've got half a dozen cars. They've already put up another tree house. There was a house built behind the garage. Code enforcement came and they moved it out to the yard. Now all they've done is build one up in the tree. And so between the apartments that have gone up in our neighborhood, some of them you can see from the street, some of them you can't. I'm told some of them have permits. When I did call code enforcement, the only thing I was told was, well, it is their house. They do have a right to rent their rooms out. Yes, they do, but not with revolving doors. They've subdivided their home. It's just 2 doors down from me. And once again, I've got traffic on my street to the left, traffic to the right, and fortunately for me, the people next door are long-term leases now. So, so that's my little bit of complaint, and this is the first time I've been here, and I'm sorry to have to come and talk to you about something like this, but I honestly believe that if you're going to go to the problem of calling code enforcement, I want something more than you have to come fill out an affidavit. No, I don't. I don't have to come down. I have pictures. Send me pictures. I sent pictures to somebody named Peter. He didn't know who the hell I was. I had already talked to him the week before. The next time you get new cars in there, send me some pictures. I did. And, well, now they've got an ad up that says it's long-term. They can rent it for a month. Nothing has changed. That's been 2 months. And I still have all these problems with these people. And like I said, we've got every week, the garbage cans are overflowing on my side of the street. 2 doors down, where they have a right to rent their bedrooms out. Police, I can't even tell you how many times the police have been there over the past 10 years. Then on the right, then the same thing with that. And I got to tell you though, every week housekeeping comes in and cleans the house out. It's really nice. Of course, once again, the garbage cans are overflowing. And that's my sad story. But it was a nice neighborhood, and it would be really nice if somebody would, we weren't asked about the sign for Melody Park Estates. I didn't even know we were Melody Park Estates until I saw my sign 20-some years ago. Either paint it, get rid of it. It blocks traffic. You can't see off to the left when you're pulling out on Chapman from Melody Park Estates. So it is a nice neighborhood, and I'd really appreciate somebody putting an end to these B&Bs. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Raber.
Hello, everybody. Our local government, the Garden Grove City Council, votes on our resolutions, or ordinances, our PUDs, our SPAs, and other items. Well, some of this voting on resolution and SPAs in the past have slipped by. Resolution 3154-66, Resolution 2075-62, which was voted on May 3rd, 1966, and amended on September 26, 1967, is one of these. On April 8th, 2003, the Garden Grove City Council voted to remove the limited time parking on Bailey on the east side. Yet, there is no reflection in the minutes of the resolutions that is being amended. I looked at the government protocols, and you're supposed to have whatever you're voting on within the lecture of the voting. I'm asking the city council to reflect back to September 26, 1967, with that resolution that was passed back then, and that the signs on the east side of Bailey are put up for the roughly 250 feet on the east side, which is in front or next to 12777 Valley View Street, the professional building. SPA 13976, the 12777 Valley View professional building, and Ordinance 1515 was voted on July 19, 1976, which was changed from residential zone to office professional zone at the address I just stated. On May 30th, 1980, roughly 2 years after the building was built, the City of Garden Grove Council voted to change it from office professional to office professional condominium. Part of that agreement was the dumpster was supposed to be repaired. I'm not too sure why a dumpster is already broken after 2 years, but they also were supposed to give to the city council or the city hall and the attorney their CCRs. I've done my own staff report. In fact, I used Terry's staff report, and I did a citizen's request. They did an excellent job. All the documentations I gave to them, they made one big PDF file with other documentations and sent it back to me and stated, we can't find the CCNRs. So, I'm asking the City of Garden Grove City Council to reflect back to July 19th, 1976, that property, since they did not meet their demand of giving the CCRs to the city, back to an office professional. Lastly, you ever guess what property I'm talking about now? Yes, you're right, 12777 Valley View. SPA 139-76 was built in 1978. At that time, when it was approved to be office professional, the map was already done and approved by the city. The map itself showed where the buildings were, where the 60 parking spots were, and where the trash was going to be. That was there, I don't need this no more, that was there until 2008. The Tiffany sewage pump, which I met Kim last week, bright and early. I don't think she wanted to see me that day, but so the original sewage pump was very small. So they created a new one, an up-to-date one. Well, because of that, some of the parking spots had to be gone. So I still have not received anything from Public Works, and I'd like to mention Bill Murray is awesome. And now I'm working with, and Kim, and Sam Kim is awesome. Actually, he came out and we talked. So I have nothing against them, but they still haven't showed me the documentation for this agreement. So the issue is this, a couple more seconds. 34 feet, I measured it, that the professional building has to walk in a residential area to throw their trash out. 34 feet. In the residential,
Thank
they're
you.
picking up the trash. All right.
Bob Donaldson.
Well, good evening, people. I'm here with the STRs. Once again, for the neighbors, we want neighborhoods, not strangerhoods. As Beatrice said, you know, my wife Pam and I moved into Garden Grove in 1972 on Robert Lane, and we've owned that house since then, and now my daughter and grandkids live there. The problem with the STRs, they're growing now again. And the city, people get frustrated with the city because if we can identify an STR, I cannot understand how the city cannot. It was good news to hear about the lady that did the illegal STR, who got fined $2,000. I wish that happened to everybody, but it doesn't. And we see what goes on, and they lie constantly. You have the one that lives over on, it's one street over from Robert, Barbara, Jacqueline. The guy just tells his people to lie when they come. Oh, we're friends from out of town, we're this, we're that. So they all get together, you get their little associations, and they lie. And the city just allows it to keep going. You hear your neighbors come forward and keep saying, well, what are you going to do about it? It's a problem. And unless you live next to them, and I mean, like my wife and I, we have 8 of them by us. That's sickening. You know, it's loud. They're not neighbors. And I mean, we just get sick of it. And the city needs to do more. They kept saying we're going to do more. It looks like they've done some. But some of these other ones, they're expanding. And the city gives people permits to expand the building, like over on Cliffwood. You know, they're making it bigger so they can have more people, make more money. So that's a big problem. Now, another thing, I happen to agree with the brother about the Veterans Day. I happen to serve in the United States Navy from 1965 to 1970. And it is kind of sad when communities do not honor their veterans. In the meantime, I would go to the Orange County Fairgrounds. It's a big group, labor's involved, businesses involved, the vets are in there, they give you 1 beer free, you get hot dogs, and you get hot dogs from the Orange County Employees Association, free. And then there's a lot of other organizations around there. You know, they have like Kaiser in there. You get your blood checked and all that kind of stuff. And that happens. And this year, November 11th is a Monday, so they'll be down there. So I encourage any vet to come down. The Labor Federation really pushes it. Has for, I think, like 3 or 4 years. And my grandkids, they like going down there because you see the old Army Jeeps and stuff, and they like to get up in there and all that. So it's pretty cool. So I would encourage any vet that lives in here to come on down to the fairgrounds. I think you'll enjoy it. It's a really nice thing. But then back to the SDRs. Hopefully you get rid of them. I wish we could put a sign like this under every single street sign in Garden Grove. We don't want these people in here. Let them know. Over at our place, Anaheim, they're still allowed, but they're going to be gone in Sherwood Village in December 2022. We put these signs in our windows now. People come in, they say, well, we knew we weren't welcome here. We wouldn't have ran here. They don't realize when they come in that a lot of these are illegals, or like where we live, Sherwood Village, is actually a townhouse community. It's not, what do you call it, a timeshare, resort. It's a community that we live in. So we put these, we happen to have 2 in my house, and we got bunches of them over. But now we had to put, we put Anaheim over there for that, but we had to cut this off so that we don't say Anaheim, but for Garden. But like I said, if we could, it'd be nice to let everybody in the city know that STR is not allowed. Put them underneath every single street sign. How much is that going to cost us? Shouldn't be very much. And it'd be well worth it, because then people are on notice. Because a lot of times these people come around, they tell you, hey, we didn't know STRs weren't, like that one lady was saying, we didn't know they were illegal. Well, post it in the city so everybody knows it's illegal. So that's my 2 cents this week, and thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Pam? Pam Donaldson?
Yeah.
Get him, Pam. Get him.
Good evening, happy birthday, Steve, City Council and Mayor. I don't know if I can beat my husband's speech here, because we both came for the same thing. But I do need to let you know that I do take my pictures and I do send them to Peter, and Peter then gets back with me and says, I sent them to the guy who works the weekend. So this guy works only weekends. But let me tell you, the 2 in front of me, every single 3 days. I mean, it was, because I drive by every day because I take my grandkids to school. So there's about 7 of them that I pass, and I take pictures, get them to Peter. Peter says, I'll send him, forward it on, so he forwards it on. But let me tell you, I know there's 3 more going up. There's 3 more that's going up, but I had, only because they only started this week. So there is Arizona cars in the driveway, but I'll wait for the month to send more pictures to let you know for sure that's exactly, but I know they are. And West Street is growing. So, and they're more, there's Stephanie, you get them, you know, and we've talked, but they're just growing. And nobody's doing, you know what, they talk. Let me tell you, the SDRs talk. They don't do anything. Garden Grove doesn't, go ahead and buy a house. Go ahead and do it. They're not doing anything. And so they do. And there they go. And poor Barbara is stuck with the one she's got across the street from her, you know, because the guy said, oh no, I'm doing it for my business because they're consults for me. So he got away with it. So he's not closing down. So, I mean, until somebody, even if you live like 6 houses down, you ask that person, well, they don't bother me, but until you lived next door to them, across the street, close to you, you're not affected. But it's hard to explain to somebody how bad it really is. It's like living in a hotel, motel setting, 364 days a year. And that's exactly what I do. We have, and I mean, the one in front of us closed down, the one that we had problems with, but there's another one on Robert Lane that's opening up. So we got rid of that one, but another one's opening up. So they're booming like crazy because Garden Grove is not doing anything. Let's do what Bob said. Let's put signs up on every single street. Let them know they're not wanted, you know. So anyway, that's my speech. Thank you.
Carlos Mendoza.
My turn. First time here, so I'd like to thank everyone for having me here. I've been living in Garden Grove since 1999. And real quick, I also like to thank the gentleman who served in the Navy. Great job. Thank you for serving. Everyone else who served, thank you so much. I'd like to say Bob made a great demonstration about the signs. We pay for them anyways. We live in this community. I paid plenty enough in my property taxes. So let's get some signs up. We have a lot of issues with this Airbnb. It's getting out of control, just simply out of control. It started one house here, one house there. Now it's every other street you go on, there's at least one there. It's crazy. You can easily identify them. You see them, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, the plates, it's crazy. And then you can also see them loading up, going into Ubers, coming out of Ubers. They all got stickers and pins that say, first time visit to Disneyland. The last weekend was a nightmare. I constantly have college parties, all the time, Chapman University, Fullerton, they come out, I call the cops, hey, another party, they come out. I simply don't know what to do anymore. 2 doors down from me, I live on 11541 Gale. 2 doors down, 11561 in District 5. It's a nightmare. They're having college parties every other weekend. Every 2 to 7 days, it's an exchange. Who are my neighbors? Who am I sleeping next to? Airbnb, yeah, they might rent out this house. Do they do a background check on them? Who's sleeping next to me? Are they selling drugs in the house? Are they making drugs in the house? Are they there truly to visit and just, not pay to live or go down the street at one of the many, many hotels that we have around Disneyland and Anaheim Convention Center? I mean, we have the Hyatt, Marriott, we have Travelodge, but there's so many. There's no need to have those people live in our communities, in our houses right next door to us and being like, oh, it's fine, no big deal. And I say it's no big deal because is Peter here? Or Ralph Hernandez, Marco Valdez? These are the people that we call them and send emails, send photos, emails, timestamps, everything. And where are they tonight? I don't see them in the crowd. Aren't they supposed to be supporting us? Where are they? They hear us, they hear our cry. They're not here. Once again, I have over 300 timestamps that I've sent over to those 3 gentlemen. Over 180 emails that I've sent and talked to them back and forth. Sir, if you would like them, I would be more than happy to email them to you, send them all forward. I'm sure you don't want 180 emails, but I'll be more than happy to give that to you because nothing is being done here. Stephanie, you're in my district, District 5. Please, I would love to do that because right now they're going on deaf ears, and I look behind me and I see all these people that, you know, they're part of a community, they're happy to say, hey, I live in Garden Grove.
Yeah.
They go to work, they come back, they pay their taxes, they pay their property taxes. You know, we want to be a neighborhood and a community. And like this is falling out of hands. Like, it's phenomenal just to think about, you know, in 2 to 5 days, who's going to be living next to me, who's going to come in, who's going to go out. It's really ridiculous. And all this is going on from Disneyland and Anaheim Convention Center. Last weekend, Anaheim Convention Center, they had their car show thing that goes on. It's awesome. They made it a track from Catella to 9th to Orangewood to what's that street? No, Orangewood to West. And they make that left and they go back into the convention center. The whole time just speeding. There's Heritage Park right there. There's a park. There's also a cross light right there, right from Heritage Park, that has no lights. There's no lights on the ground. There's no button that you can push and have like flashing little lights and say like, hey, I'm going to cross now. There's so many kids there. I take my kids there. And I know about that because I'm a parent and I'm concerned and I see it. This weekend, I don't know how many Camaros I saw speeding up and down the area. But that's a different story. I'm here for the Airbnb and we need to stop this. This is getting out of hand. And I'm tired of sending these emails, and I'm here and asking every single one of you, please help us out. We're here as a community. It's not just me. There's a lot of people, and I know a lot of people aren't here, but there's a lot of things being said on this Nextdoor app. I'm sure you guys are well aware of this Nextdoor app. There's a lot of comments, and now they're starting to get really bad and saying awful things about our community and in Garden Grove and talking about how these code enforcers aren't doing anything. So I don't want this to turn out to be they start talking about you individuals here, saying that you guys aren't doing anything. So let's make this happen. Let's do it now before it's too late because we're losing our neighborhood. Thank you for our time. Thank you.
Katie Moore. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so you're here specifically to speak on a public hearing item. Got it. Check that. Tran Nancy. Nancy Tran? Tran Nancy. It says Tran Nancy on the card. No? Tran Dow?
These guys is in speak Vietnamese on the translator.
Yeah, I don't know. We don't have a translator available unless you, yeah, okay.
Cannot. We're not certified.
Maureen Blackman.
Hi there, I'm Maureen Blackman. I filled up my pink card after a political rant, and what I wanted to say is, first off, we need the timer, and secondly, we need 3 minutes, because if this goes into 2020 and Westminster politics starts taking over Garden Grove, we're never going to get any business done. We have a full staff that's sitting here for political retribution on one council person, and I think it's unfair for the city of Garden Grove to have to sit and listen to rants that make no sense, and political retribution is basically what it is. I've supported FAT for the past 10 years. I still support him, but even if I didn't, I wouldn't want to listen to somebody else's nonsense that comes up here. I think it's unfair. I agree with the STRs. I think code is completely overworked. I think we've bitten off more than we can chew. I support them. I feel bad that Pete's got 700 emails every month that he can't answer to. We brought in good men and women, and we're not allowing them to do their job. We have to change the timing. I never thought I'd say I wanted Bruce to run a show, but he would never allow these signs to be posted in our Chambers. He wouldn't allow it. That's how they started going to T-shirts, because he said no. So at some point, we really have to take control of these things. This is not going to get prettier, it's only going to get uglier. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that is the last of the cards I have, so we're going to recess and go to successor agency. Madam Clerk, would you like to call roll?
I would.
Member Bridegan?
Here.
Member O'Neill?
Here.
Member Tu-Ha Wen? Here. Member Klopfenstein? Here. Member Kim Wen?
Here.
Vice Chair Bowie?
Here.
And Chair Jones.
Here. Okay, we already did oral communications simultaneously with the other, with City Council. We have three consent items. Do I have a motion?
Second it.
Call the vote.
Motion received, 7 yes votes.
Okay, do we have any matters from agency members? Okay, seeing none, we will adjourn back to City Council. Okay, that takes us on to consent items. It's recommended that items 2A through 2K be acted on simultaneously unless anyone would like to pull any items. Any pulls?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Call the vote.
Motion received, 7 yes votes.
Okay, public hearings, we have 3 items. 3A.
Item 3A is adoption of a resolution to approve a recommendation from the Traffic Commission to modify.
Madam Clerk, before you start, I would like to recuse because this is within 1,000 feet from my property.
Okay.
So thank you.
Okay, please continue.
Item 3A is an adoption of a resolution to approve a recommendation from the Traffic Commission to modify existing street diverters on Flower Street and Bowen Street at Trask Avenue, Garden Grove. And Di is here to give the report.
Terry, can you put up the monitor?
Oh, sure.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. This item is to forward the recommendation of the July 2nd Traffic Commission meeting to modify the street diverters on Flower Street and Bowen Street at Trask Avenue. Due to excessive traffic volumes and speeding concerns on Cypress Street, staff was directed by the Traffic Commission to perform a study of the existing street closures and diverters on Flower Street, Hope Street, Bowen Street, and Adland Street at Trask Avenue to determine the feasibility of revising the existing access restrictions to help relieve the traffic volumes on Cypress Street. After completing the study, it appears that a large portion of the motorists enter Cypress Street from Trask Avenue to access the neighborhood to the west. This is most likely due to the various closures and diverters off of Trask. Providing additional access from Trask Avenue will help decrease traffic volumes on Cypress and help rebalance the traffic circulation in the neighborhood. At the July 2nd, 2019 meeting, the Traffic Commission approved recommending to the City Council to open Flower Street for right turn in and right turn out traffic. It's a little small, but that's kind of what the proposed modification would look like at Flower Street. And also to open Bowen Street to all movements, which is this next slide. It looked like a regular intersection. And Hope Street and Adland Street are to remain as is, which is completely closed off to Trask. Initial cost estimates are approximately $50,000 to reconstruct Flower Street and $75,000 to reconstruct Bowen Street. If approved, the project will be placed on the 5-year capital improvement project list and prioritized for construction. There is no impact to the general fund. It is recommended that the City Council conduct a public hearing to receive testimony from residents notified within the affected area, adopt a resolution amending City Council Resolution number 7852-96, and approving the recommendation of the Traffic Commission to modify the existing right turn diverter on Flower Street at Trask Avenue to allow right turn ins and out only, and to modify the existing right turn diverter on Bowen Street at Trask Avenue to allow all movements. This concludes my report. I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Okay, seeing none, this is a public hearing item. Huh. Testing. This is a public hearing item, so we're going to open the public hearing. I do have one pink card. Katie Moore.
Good evening, council members. I can't believe I was the one that really started this whole issue. I can't believe it's been over 2 years since I've been working with this and going through so many different options and petitions and everything, and at least we finally made it to this point. And I really would appreciate it and encourage you to please throw your support behind this and vote to vote in favor of this 3A. I just wanted to point out just a few things and the information that Daivu gave to you regarding this, about some of the background. I know that, I'll just try to make it quickly here. They said the issue rose on Cypress Street because of traffic congestion and speeding issues. I just also wanted to say that it arose due to serious pedestrian issues, dangerous road conditions because people were speeding. We lack sidewalks and streetlights in areas, and there have been a lot of close calls with regards to people being hit on the road too that still exist. Second, it was also stated, I know when the when the engineering department came out and said we didn't really find any serious speeding violations on the road. Well, one issue I had with that was that they only tested the speeding during like the hours between 2 or 3 in the afternoon due to the fact that they can only be there during working hours, I guess, to check out the speeding. And the majority of the speeding occurs either during rush hour before people go into work from 6 to 9 in the morning, or the evening commute, or people who speed through the neighborhoods at 2 in the morning racing and things like that. So that was not factored into the miles per hour, average miles per hour on the street. Last but not least, I was a little bit concerned. It said, I know on the information given to you that said, I believe 31 residences showed up at the earlier public hearing we had regarding the opening of the closed streets. And I believe from the documentation I have, and that's in here, 31 individuals showed up at that hearing. Even though, and I just want to make sure too, what was not pointed out was that over 700 notices were sent to 700 residences in there. So having only 31 individuals show up when 700 residences had been applied, it was pretty small. Also, and you also mentioned in there that the majority of people spoke against the opening of the streets. Well, according to my notes, and I have in here too, is that there were 5 families who all lived on Hope Street that spoke against it. And there were 4 families that spoke either in favor of it or were neutral. So I just kind of felt like the language in the report made it sound like there were a lot of people that came there and spoke against it. At least that was my interpretation of it. So I just want to make sure that that was clear. So anyways, that's I just want to say, I really, really appreciate you helping our traffic issues on Cypress Street start with this. I still believe in the barrier. Maybe that will happen too someday for the cut-through traffic. But at least I think this is a really good start and has the support of the Traffic Commission, the community, and hopefully to you, the City Council. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak on this particular item? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Colleagues? Read the report. I've talked to some of the various members on our traffic commission. I've gotten updates. It sounds like this was fairly well played out and thought through in a organized manner. So I would like to move approval.
Second.
Call to vote.
Motion received, 6 yes votes.
Thank you. Okay, before we go on to the next item, I'm going to ask that we take a 5-minute break. 3B.
Item 3B is approval of substantial amendment number 2 to the 2019-20 Annual Action Plan for the use of funding from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and Nate is here to give the report.
Thanks, Terry. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Tonight you're asked to conduct a public hearing regarding substantial amendment number 2 to the City of Garden Grove's fiscal year 1920 Annual Action Plan, and to transmit substantial amendment number 2 to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. The City of Garden Grove receives annual entitlement grants from 3 HUD funding sources, including an annual Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG allocation. On March 26, 2019, the City Council adopted the fiscal year 1920 Annual Action Plan, which includes the use of CDBG funds for the period from July 1, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. HUD rules require a substantial amendment to be made to the action plan if the budget for any planned activity described in the action plan is to be changed by 30% or more of the total entitlement award for that entitlement program and for that program year. Substantial amendment number 2 proposes to add $1,542,000 in non-federal funds to the action plan for the Beach Trask Sewer Improvement Project. That's in addition to the $400,000 in CDBG funds that was previously allocated to this project. In program year 11-12, 4 properties on Thackeray Drive were purchased using CDBG funds with the intention of creating jobs via the development of a resort hotel. The hotel project is not completed, and the city is unable to report any accomplishments for the use of these funds. The inability to report accomplishments necessitates repaying the fair market value of the properties purchased with the funds back to the city's local account with HUD. City staff have completed an appraisal of the properties that were purchased and have determined that the fair market value of the properties is $1.542 million. HUD rules require that the repayment of these funds be made by completing a CDBG eligible project using non-federal funds in the amount of the required repayment. This repayment obligation will be met by using $1.5 million in sewer capital funds to complete the Beach Trask Sewer Improvement Project. The city's adopted 1920 budget already includes the $1.542 million in sewer capital funds for the completion of the Beach and Trask Sewer Improvement Project. This substantial amendment is required because the use of these funds was not specifically called out in the 1920 action plan. Therefore, this substantial amendment will have no effect on the adopted budget. Staff recommends that the council conduct a public hearing and accept public comments regarding proposed substantial amendment number 2 and direct staff to transmit substantial amendment number 2 to HUD. This concludes my presentation. I can answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. I do not have any cards. Is there anyone here to speak on item 3B? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Colleagues?
Move approval.
Second.
Thanks, Nate. Call the vote.
Motion received, 7 yes votes.
3C.
Item 3C is the introduction and first reading of an ordinance approving amendment number A 25-2019 to amend section 9460 of Title IX of the Municipal Code. And that ordinance is entitled An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Garden Grove approving amendment number A 25-2019, a zoning text amendment to section 9460 of the Garden Grove Municipal Code to add definitions for terms used in existing portions of Title IX pertaining to the flood hazard overlay zone to meet the minimum requirements of the National Flood Insurance Program. And Mr. Marino is here to give the report.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council members. The item before you tonight is to transmit a recommendation from the Planning Commission requesting that the City Council introduce and conduct the first reading of the ordinance approving Amendment A 025-2019 to amend Title IX of the Municipal Code to add definitions and terms for Title IX pertaining to the flood insurance hazard overlay zone to meet the minimum requirements of the National Flood Insurance Program, as well as to determine that the amendment is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA. The request is a result of a community assistance meeting that took place in May of this year when the Department of Water Resources, on behalf of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, reviewed the city's National Flood Insurance Program and assessed the city's implementation of the local floodplain management ordinance. The Department of Water Resources analysis of the city's floodplain management ordinance found some minor deficiencies in the city's municipal code where certain terms and definitions were not in alignment with the California Model Floodplain Management Ordinance. To ensure full compliance with the National Flood Insurance Program regulations, we were required to add 5 definitions to the city's ordinance and provide initial draft ordinance outlining the required changes for review by the Department of Water Resources. Failure to update the terms and definitions would risk the city's participation in the National Flood Insurance Program. Being a non-participant would mean that flood insurance policies within the city could not be written or renewed. The 5 definitions required to be added to the code define existing manufactured home, park, or subdivisions, expansion to an existing manufactured home, park, or subdivision. It also added a definition for historic structures, a new definition for new manufactured home, park, or subdivisions, and one for substantial damage. The purpose of this updated floodplain management ordinance is to ensure that the city is in full compliance with the National Flood Insurance Program regulations. These regulations are implemented to promote the public health, safety, and general welfare, and to reduce damages and loss to public and private facilities due to flood conditions. On September 5th of this year, the Planning Commission held a public hearing to consider the amendment and recommended that City Council adopt the amendment that's before you. Therefore, it's recommended that City Council conduct a public hearing, determine that the ordinance is categorically exempt from CEQA, Section 15061B3, and introduce and conduct the first reading of the ordinance approving Amendment A25, 2019 to amend Section 904 060 of Title IX of the Municipal Code, adding those definitions. That would conclude staff's report, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Lee. Any questions of staff? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. We'll open the public hearing. I do not have any cards. Is there anyone here to speak on item 3C? Seeing none, close the public hearing. Colleagues?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Call to vote. Thanks, Lee.
Motion received, 7 yes votes.
Keep my insurance.
Okay, that takes us on to commission committee matters. 4A is Admin Board of Appeals. I'm going to ask that we continue that one more time. We thought we were honing in on somebody, but I think we got a little more work to do. So we'll skip 4A. 4B, I would like to nominate that we pull Josh Lindsay up from Traffic Commission, take him off Traffic Commission, and put him on Planning Commission. And then, I don't know if I have to do this separately. City Clerk, you can tell me. And then that would leave a vacancy on the Traffic Commission,
Right,
which
right.
I would like to nominate Yasmin Vasquez to fill.
So I will have to notice it, and I will have to list it on a future agenda.
Okay.
For the vacancy on the Traffic Commission.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we take action then on the first
Planning,
one, on the
yes.
Planning Commission one, and then agenda, and then assuming that goes, then agendize it with her name on the next one?
I'll second
it.
Or how does that work? Or you have to?
I'll have to notice it and accept applications.
Is that correct?
Yes, so you can act on the appointment to the Planning Commission tonight.
Okay.
But the appointment to fill the vacancy on the Traffic Commission will have to come at a later date because the clerk does need to post notice of vacancy.
Okay.
So we have a second.
We do.
Second it for Josh.
Okay. Call to vote.
Motion received, 7 yes votes.
Great. Okay, items for consideration, 5A.
Item 5A is adoption of a resolution authorizing an application for and receipt of SB2 Planning Grant Program funds. And Nate is here to give the report.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. The purpose of this item is to request that the City Council adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the Planning Grants Program application, or as I'll call it, the PGP. The PGP grant documents on any amendments thereto on behalf of the city is required by the Department of Housing and Community Development, or HCD, for receipt of the PGP grant and also to appropriate any funds received from the grant application for the purpose designated for the fiscal year 1920. In 2017, Governor Brown signed a 15-bill housing package aimed at addressing the state's housing shortage and high housing costs. Specifically, it included the Building Homes and Jobs Act, or SB2, which establishes a $75 recording fee on real estate documents to increase the supply of affordable homes in California. Year one of this funding is designed to provide funding and technical assistance to all local governments in California to help cities and counties prepare, adopt, and implement plans and process improvements that streamline housing approvals and accelerate housing production. The city's PGP grant application requests funding for the following activities to streamline housing approvals and accelerate housing production: to update the housing element, the creation of objective residential development standards, creation of objective development standards for supportive housing, to update density bonus ordinances, to the creation of development standards for hotel-motel conversion, update multifamily residential ordinance to allow by right permanent supportive housing, and to fund a UCI housing study. There's no cost for the grant application. However, a successful grant application will bring up to $310,000 in new funds to the city for streamlined housing and to accelerate housing production. Tonight, you're asked to adopt the resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the PGP application, the PGP grant documents, and any amendments thereto on behalf of the city as required by HCD for receipt of the PGP grant, and to appropriate any funds received from the PGP application for the purposes designated for fiscal year 1920. This concludes my report. I can answer any questions that you have.
Any questions?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Sorry. Just curious, that so it's $310,000 and you have some items listed here. Are these in kind of order of importance? Would the $310,000 be able to, would you be able to utilize that for all of these requests, or would you have to pick and choose, or would you just go down that list, or how would that work?
So the way that we set it up is everything on that list could be fulfilled with the $310,000. Okay. So there's no picking. Everything on that list, if we get the money, could most likely get done.
It's a pretty good bang for your buck. It's good.
It is.
A lot of stuff. Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Who made the motion?
Kim and Fat.
Fat second.
All right.
Call to vote. Thanks again, Nate.
Motion received, 7 yes votes.
Okay, that takes us on to matters. We do have one agendized matter, which is a discussion regarding Tep Parade Festival in Garden Grove as requested by Councilmember Bowie.
Mayor and colleagues, first of all, I certainly saw two of the members from my communities here, and during the break, they expressed the desire to speak about this item, and I know there is no public hearing anymore, but if the mayor allow, I would like to invite them to share with us their opinions, but if not, then I will...
Not under matters. Matters is our own
Okay, that's
thing,
fine.
So, yeah.
Mayor and Council, about a week ago, I submitted a preliminary draft proposal from the Vietnamese American Federation of Southern California and a few key associations in the previous Tet Parade Committee. Every year for the past 7 years, the Tet Parade was organized by a committee led by the Vietnamese American Federation, plus about a dozen association or organization. Some are veterans groups, and other are alumni association of the former Vietnamese high school and college. Also in that committee are the Trần Hưng Đạo Foundation, the foundation that built the General Statue on Bonsa, the Kinh Hùng Foundation, and the Hồng Bàng Cultural Association, which ran a Vietnamese linguistics, and a bunch of other associations. In some years, there's also participation from the Unified Student Association. Some years they participate, some they don't, because usually they also do the Tet Festival. Now, in May of 24th, 2019, just like the previous 7 years, the Vietnamese, the Tet Parade Committee submit an application to the City of Westminster in May 24th. About a couple years later, a couple months later, another groups also submit an application to organize a Tet Parade in the City of Westminster on Bonsa for the same day, the same place that we have applied before. And this group, named under Duy Nguyen, the person who ran unsuccessfully against Council Member Thu Hà in 2018, and ran unsuccessfully against me when I ran for the chairman of the Vietnamese community in 2015. He then, in his application, indicate that he filed a new organization called Little Saigon Westminster Tet Parade. The same name that we use, Little Saigon Tet Parade, he just insert a Westminster into it, which is fine. You know, he have all the right to do it. The only problem is, up until today, I just checked the state of secretary, as well as checking with the county record. He has not yet registered his organization. So, under the state law, they are not a legitimate association to apply for the Tet Parade. He then, when we pointed out, when I came to the City Council of Westminster meeting and speak to the City Council and point that fact out, he then come up and bring another association into the play with introducing two more individuals. The first person is Mr. Hoi Võ, a registered sex offender on State of California website. And the second person, his name is Phong Tran. I have heard he is also a felon or been involved with law, and that involvement prevented him from having a U.S. citizenship. A day after or two after the city made the decision to award the permit to the other group, I had an interview with the Người Việt Daily News, and I told very clearly that I have been working for the past 7 years trying to organize a Tet Parade for the communities, and I have done my due. So maybe this time I would have a break, a vacation from having to do the Tet Parade and enjoy the New Year's with my family. However, a week after that, many of the leaders in the Vietnamese community come to me. People such as the attorney Đỗ Phụ of SBTN and many others group, including the gentleman sitting down there representing the Anaheim School District, Student and Parent Association, and many other associations come to me and said, Fat, the decision whether to do the Tet Parade or not to do the Tet Parade does not rest on your shoulders. You cannot, on your own, decide whether to organize a Tet Parade or not organizing it. This is a community event, and many organizations for the past many years pulling together to do this. This is a pride of the Vietnamese community here in Southern California, and we are very concerned about the people who try to take over it. So let's call a town hall meeting and discuss and decide on whether to do it or not to do it. So about a month ago, on August, I believe on August 7 or 8, there was a community town hall meeting and attended by about a dozen associations and about 50 people and a bunch of people from the press media. Everyone voted unanimously with 49 votes, 100% of the vote, mandate that the Vietnamese American Federation will have to submit a proposal to the city of Garden Grove to do the Tet Parade. And about 41 votes to do it on the same day and do it on Westminster Avenue from west of Brookhurst toward the Garden Grove Park. There are a couple of votes that want to do it a week after, and there was one vote that want to do it a week before. Because of that decision, I was mandated to draft a proposal, and about a week and a half ago, we submitted a preliminary draft proposal to the Community Services Department and to our city manager. At the police chief recommendation and the community services director suggestion, they feel that for the interest of times, because it usually takes a lot more time for the very first year to plan, so they would suggest that I would put it on discussion of the matter so that the city council and the mayor would have a heads up about what is coming. Let me give you a little bit of what we would like to propose in the what we have proposed in the draft proposal, as well as in the upcoming final proposal. Just like the past 7 years, who many of you have been familiar with, because you have participated, the City of Garden Grove Council have always been in the Tet Parade for at least the past 3 years. We plan to do it with a ceremony at about 9 a.m., following shortly by a parade by about 100 units. And it usually travel for about, on Bowen Avenue in the city of Westminster, we travel for about 1,200 feet from Magnolia toward Bushard. If we are allowed to have the permit to do it in Westminster, it would travel from west of Brookhurst, just after the Lee Sewage, so that we don't have to close Brookhurst Street, and we'll travel toward just past of Bushard, then we will turn right on the Aurora Drive into the park, and we'll end it there. The parade will, in the past 7 years when we do it in the city of Westminster, because it is a landlocked, so, and there is very little parking, so we have about 15,000 people along both sides of the sidewalk to watch the parade, and about 5,000 people in the parade itself. Here on Westminster Avenue between Brookhurst, close to Brookhurst and Bowen and Westminster intersection, there are 3 major supermarkets with a lot of parkings. And so we expect the crowd might be even more. And what it does is it brings a lot of businesses to a lot of sales to specialty stores such as Sewage, coffee house, delications, supermarket, restaurant along the venues. And that would be a boost to local business, bringing a lot of revenue stream to our local business as well as to the city in form of sales taxes. I have talked to the owner of Thuận Phát supermarket, and they are thrilled. I also talked to a lot of restaurants in that area, and they are really welcoming it. What would be affected are offices such as, professional services such as doctor office, who people doesn't, on the parade route would not buy anything from them. But I talked to the owner of the medical plaza on that area, and they are okay with it because they really want to support the community event. There have been some question about if Garden Grove would grant the permit to the Vietnamese American Federation of Southern California and a dozen associations in the Tet Parade Committee. It may be a subject of some sensitivity to our neighbor next to our city. I think why that is a question. We should decide whether to grant the permit based on the merit to the resident of Garden Grove, not to the politics involved in, with nearby city. If I reflect back, about 10 years ago, and the years before that, the Tet Festival have always been done in Garden Grove Park. And when there was some issue, they moved to Costa Mesa. Costa Mesa wasn't concerned about whether they offend Garden Grove when they consider their application. Similarly, about 3 years or 4 years ago, when County Supervisor Andrew Doe decided to have another Tet Festival, also on the same weekend, the same time, same day, but on My Square Park. There are some concern in the community that that will split and divide the community. However, the student Tet Festival continued to flourish, even though there are a free Tet Festival in My Square Park. So I think the rationale for us to decide whether we should grant this group the permit should rest on whether this is a major benefit for the city of Garden Grove in terms of revenue, whether this is the benefit for the city of Garden Grove because it's benefit Garden Grove resident. And I believe that that if we listen to our residents in Garden Grove, both Vietnamese American as well as non-Vietnamese American, the majority of the people will enjoy it. It also put Garden Grove in the map, international map, as the Tet Festival in the last few years have been watched by millions. I'm talking about 20 to 30 million people worldwide and in Vietnam. The privilege to organize a Tet Parade is not with the city of Westminster or with any other city. It rests with the community at large. Whether there are one organization or two organizations or three organizations that would like to do the Tet Parade, they should be entitled to do it. If they are able to meet the requirement that the city that they apply for mandate. Similar to an event at a restaurant. If this restaurant approve it and agree with the rules and the condition, they would do it there. If they don't, they move to another restaurant. So I hope, Council, the mayor, and my colleague will entertain a proposal from my community, the Vietnamese American Federation, and the dozen association when we submit this formal proposal in this week or at the latest early next week. I also would like to clear a couple of things. Earlier on, there is a gentleman with his name is Ngô Đình Lượng, makes an accusation. Well, he makes many accusations, baseless accusations, but I'm not going to talk about it because it has nothing to do with our city. I'm only talking about the one that involve the Tet Parade, where the city council will probably hear about it in the near future. He makes the assertion that we still owe the city of Westminster money. That is completely baseless, not true, and it's a liar. For the last 7 years, every single year, we pay in advance to the city of Westminster somewhere between $65,000 and $70,000. And every year we have to pay it in advance around December or the first week of January at the latest, about a month ahead of the Tet Parade. Last year, the city of Westminster required us to pay in advance about let's say $65,000. However,
Really quick, I just want to clarify that when
Yes.
you're saying we, you're not talking about the city of Garden Grove or you as a council member, you're talking about we as your other organization.
that's correct, Mayor. When we talk about we here, I'm talking about the Tet Parade Committee, the Little Saigon Tet Parade Committee. So every year, the Little Saigon Tet Parade pay in advance to the city of Westminster the full amount that they estimated ahead of time, with the understanding that if it went over, we will have to pay more. If it is a little bit less, then they will refund us. And every single year, they refund us a few $1,000s, $2,000 to $5,000, because their estimate is higher, except last year. Last year, about an hour before the opening of the Tet Parade, there is a major storm, a downpour, causing the Tet Parade about an hour and a half delay. And, we have to pay for every penny that the city incur. So because of that, there was about $12,000 additional cost. And when we report to, when we have a press conference to report the finance, we project that we have a loss of about $8,000. And we did not request the city of Westminster to, support us on that. They just vote to reduce $8,000 from the additional charge, and only ask us to pay the difference, which is about $4,000 or $5,000. So to say that we owe the city of Westminster money, that is a total lie. This year, if the city of Garden Grove allow us the permit to do the parade, just like with the city of Westminster, we do not want the community and the Tet Parade Committee do not want us to be a burden to the taxpayer of the city. So all of the cost of public works, Garden Grove Police, Fire Department, staff, even time meeting with us to plan for the Tet Parade. The Tet Parade committee will pay every penny of it, and we can pay ahead of time so that the city does not have to worry about other organizations that did not have enough money to pay back the city. If we are allowed to do it, like I said, the cost to the public will be zero. Everyone that want to stand on the sidewalk to watch the parade, it will be completely free. There's no admission. The only fee that we charge to the participants would be for those who want to be in the parade itself, like people who want to have a float, people who want to ride in their car in the parade. A very nominal fee. For non-profit, that would be $300, and for business, that would be $600. But the tens of thousands who watch it, who want to come out to enjoy, it's completely free to them, and you have been there. You see how good everyone enjoy the Tet Parade. If we do it on Westminster, the opening ceremony, we plan to have skydiver, if we can arrange that with the FAA, to have skydiver jumping out of an airplane with two huge flags. One is a USA flag and the other is a Vietnamese heritage flag. They will dance around on the sky and then land it at the lawn area of the elementary or middle school nearby. And when the parade ends, the float will be allowed to park in the Garden Grove Park so that people, for a day, so that people can come out and take picture with the beautiful floats. So I think that would be a very, very good event, not only for residents of Garden Grove, but for the community as a whole. Let me see if I have missed anything else. At this point, I just want to give the City Council a heads up, and I really appreciate the fact that Garden Grove is a very open city. Each City Council can add an item for discussion in the agenda without having to have a majority vote. It's only when we take action that we need to agendize it. But if when I discuss, would like to put on the agenda to discuss the Tet Parade, I myself alone can add to the agenda, unlike other cities where they require a majority of the council member. So at this point, I finish my presentation and discussion, and I would like to open for question, and also would like to ask the city attorney for procedural question. But I would like to ask that after, my colleagues and the mayor, if you guys have any question for me.
If you're, go ahead. Just one quick kind of point of order. I would just caution that when we're up here as Garden Grove council members, we need to wear that hat and that hat only. So it's confusing when you keep saying we this and we that, but you're not referring to we as in a representative of the city of Garden Grove. You're referring to we as a president of some third-party nonprofit organization. So I just don't want to confuse the public that we owe Westminster money or we don't, or those sort of things, because this is under matters from council members.
Right.
And so I don't want to confuse. That's just my point of order.
So,
George.
Thank you, Mayor, but let me clarify that.
George.
Everything that I talk up to this point is when I say we, it represents the...
It's confusing to the public.
Right,
When
right.
you as a Garden Grove council member
Understand.
say we, and you're not referring to we as the city of Garden Grove.
I got it. And I just would like to clarify for the public that when I said we, I refer to not the city of Garden Grove,
Yeah.
or myself as Garden Grove City Council, but as as the Vietnamese American Federation. Right.
Our hat on when we're wearing our Garden Grove hat, that we're in a Garden Grove meeting, that we stay consistent. George?
Personally, that was the same thing I wanted to bring up. I'm glad you brought it up. It identical ditto with the mayor on that. Fat, honestly, this gives me heartburn on so many levels. The first thing, the same date. All right. You know, there are as many groups in the Vietnamese community that are not embroiled in this bitter dispute that's going on in Westminster. They're just Vietnamese groups that want to be in a parade. And quite frankly, if it wasn't on the same date, they'd probably do both. You know, because they don't have a dog in the fight. They you know, so you would probably have a more inclusive parade if you just did it the day after or the day before. And to me, it kind of smacks as poking the finger at Westminster, doing it the same day on the same street, and we want to use the, you know, to me, it's just very egregious in that regard. Are all groups going to be invited? Let's say the Boy Scouts want to be in it, or the West Garden Grove Neighborhood Association, or the Garden Grove Neighborhood Association, one of these groups, the Elks Club. Would they all be invited, or is this going to be an inclusive event or a non-inclusive event? That's one of the concerns I have. But with that being said, I do understand that the costs are totally absorbed by the Vietnamese American Federation, if I got that right. And, you know, if you could resolve those issues of the date being the same date for me, it would make it much easier and give me a lot less heartburn. But honestly, you know, if we're going to do it the same date, same time, it's going to be hard for me to get behind it, because I just really don't think that that's appropriate, knowing that what's going on in their political scene over there. But that's just food for thought and my comments.
Right. So, so for the first question, can we do it at a different date? It would be difficult to do it at a week before or the week after, because for the Tết parade for Vietnamese event, Tết is only the very, very first weekend right after the New Year's Eve.
But the weekend's 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, right?
So, let me finish.
Yeah.
So, like I mentioned earlier, the date is chosen very early in May 24th, and we choose that date very early on. However, if we do it in the same weekend and do it on the Sunday, the day after, that is a very possibility, because it's not too far off. If we do it the week after, probably most people would not want to do it. But on the Sunday, the day after, it is a possibility. The reason that I do not put it in there is because when you submit a proposal, you just stick a date in there. And for this particular one, because that is a chosen date that we think the very first, Saturday is the very first Lunar New Year's for that weekend. And so it has some significant meaning. But if Garden Grove City Council, or let's just say Garden Grove PD, have prefer a Sunday, let's just say because Sunday is an easier day than for Garden Grove PD to work on, then we don't mind to do it on Sunday. I tend not to do on Sunday because I know our PD and firefighters, sometimes they prefer Sunday, because Sunday usually is the Super Bowl or the not the Super Bowl, but the final.
But your organization's paying all the overtime, right, for
Yes.
the officers?
We
So all
always
that would
pay
be-
overtime, correct.
So all that's incurred by the organization. The city
Yes,
doesn't
yes.
incur anything.
Reason we choose Saturday is so that it will be easier for, you know, our PD and firefighter to enjoy the pro football on Sunday, or people who have church.
How about the inclusiveness of this?
We have always been inclusive. In fact, we would love to have. Last year we asked the Garden Grove Neighborhood Association to parade with us, but because they don't have enough they have so many events that they choose not to. The more that we also invite the Hispanic, the Korean community, the Hispanic community to parade with us, and even the Falun Gong, one of the Chinese meditation group. They always not only they always parade with us, but they build a huge and very beautiful float, and they always win either the first or the second prize for their float. So we are inclusive, and we love to have the Boy Scout to join us. One years, not last year, but the years before that, we have a very big Boy Scout Chilang Boy Scout group I think they are in the Pacific Air or the other parade with us. And not only that, they also help with the with some of the volunteer works.
Colleagues?
Any other question?
So I'm also all for celebrating Tet, but I have a little trepidation of getting involved in political drama. And I do have a problem maybe with the same day, because then you've got such close proximity to two different parades. You're splitting the community and stuff like that. So I'm not against having a Tet parade, but I am a little worried about the political drama and having it on the same day. And also I'm concerned about the street. I know you're going to pick up the cost, or the association would pick up the cost, but you've got part of Westminster City there. You've got, looks like would close one side of Westminster and not the other. I'd be a little concerned about safety of people if you had traffic going the other direction on that street and not in one direction. That would scare me. And then I would need to know more about the logistics of everything. Even though we wouldn't maybe incur any cost, I would still need to know all the logistics of everything before I really approved anything. So, but I'm open to Tet.
Okay, I guess I'm going to chime in a little bit. I've been volunteers for many years for the Tet parades in many years ago. So I know the procedure from A to Z. Just like John said, I agree. The Westminster, if you have to close, you have to close on both sides for safety procedure. There's no way you can have on one side and have a Tet parade on just one side of the street and then open the traffic flow. Because that's going to create a safety to yin yang. People can cross the street taking pictures and then get run over the car. Then who responsible is that? It's going to be the city, either way. So safety is the first, something we're concerned about Westminster. Because talk from a perspective of a volunteer for many years on the street, controlling the traffic, I was there. So I know exactly what happened. Even you close on both sides, that's still a chance for something to run over. So that is something that we need to look very closely in logistics. And Tet is something very sacred. It's a Lunar New Year for all of us. It's good to have celebration, but when the celebration come down with grudges, when the celebration come down with political issue, it's not a celebration. It's something that in the back of everybody's mind is, which one I'm going to go to? Which one I'm going to be standing on both sides watching, or am I standing in Westminster watching? And for the organization who want to participate with the kid and second generation, third generation, they're going to have to take into consideration is, which side am I going to apply? Okay. And as city council, we're going to get invited by both sides. Now, we're going to put in it's in our city, we're going to go there, but as a neighbor city, we have to be working together for the neighbor city, because that's what all the community come together. So all of this is going to be very hard for us unless we have a full picture, pro and con, right? So that's my 2 cents.
We will be closing both sides of the street, Westminster Avenue from Brookhurst to Bouchard. Both sides of the street belong to Garden Grove. We verify that with our traffic engineering department and with the community, with the public works. So both sides of Westminster belong to Garden Grove. The only scratch that belong to Westminster is Westminster Avenue between Bouchard and Magnolia. But we don't travel. We do not parade that far. We end right after Bouchard. We will then make a right turn into the other route, which is right at very close by to Bouchard and Westminster Avenue intersection. I also now traffic engineering will take a look at it and see if we can just close. We will close both sides of Westminster Avenue until Bouchard, and then we close a very small segment from Bouchard to the Odora on only half. So staff will take a look at that and see if that works. If it doesn't work, then they will propose that we go all the way to Magnolia. So that will require a permit from the city of Westminster because we track into their portion of the street. But I as a pragmatic person, I look at things separately. First of all, I will need to get the approval or the permit from the city of Garden Grove. I say here I'm referring to the Tet Parade committee. We'll first need to get the approval from the city of Garden Grove. And if we have to get the permit from the city of Westminster for closing part of their street, the Tet committee will then talk to the city of Westminster to have the approval for closing that part of the street. They could approve or they could deny. But that is something that they have to decide. And I hope that the city council, our Garden Grove City Council will decide not based on politics, but based on what merit it is for our resident. There is also another route that we as a Tet Parade committee have contemplated, and that is going on Euclid Street from Chapman to Acacia, and it will end at the Village Park, right, at the Tower Park. That is another possibility. Now, if we do it there, most of the traffic's management plan have already in place because we do the Strawberry Festival year in and year out. And so it would be easy for us to come up with a plan in time for the Tet Parade should we choose that route. And the community at the town hall meeting is also open to that second option. Their preference is on Westminster Avenue, but the second option would be to do it on Euclid Street between Chapman, let's just say Chapman and Stanford. But I don't think we have to decide that today. Today is just the discussion, the heads up that we are going to propose, and we will submit a formal proposal in this week or at the latest, at the early of next week. Then the city manager and community services director will then submit that to the city council for direction. But I want to give you guys a heads up so that you know that it is coming and talk to constituent if we need to. We don't have a lot of time, so that's why I thought I would put it on the matter from from the council, so that you have the information. And I'm glad I do that, so that you can give us some of your early input, such as doing it the day after, which is Sunday.
For me, honestly, knowing the politics involved, what's going on in Westminster, and I know you want to keep the politics out of it, but the reality is we all know how dysfunctional Westminster is right now. And doing it on the same day is a deal breaker for me.
Okay.
And I'm just letting you know right now. It causes too much grief between our communities. It causes grief within the Vietnamese community. Like Councilwoman Tuha said, there's, which do I go to? There's too much at stake there. So I really think you should think a different day.
So are you more open to do it on Sunday, the day after?
I'm open, but not on the same day. Definitely not on the same day. That will kill it for me.
Okay, so on the following day, without having to commit on it, yes or no, but you're more open to.
I'm more open
to Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
I'd weigh in and just say, to me, whether it's the day before or the weekend before or after, it's still awkward and it's still divisive and it's still political. So it's
as bad though as the same day. It's like
but it's still
poking them in the
force
eye.
people to make a choice. Which one are you going to? Which one are you going to support? Which one are you?
Mayor, you can, if it's not on the same day, you can go to both. And also, if you take a look at the Tet Festival, we have two Tet Festivals.
It's awkward. It's still awkward because it forces you to make a choice. Do I go to one, the other, both, neither, da-da-da? And that's what, not just us as people who would participate in the parade, but the community, the kids, the moms, the dads, the children, right? You have to make that choice.
in USA, Mayor Jones, in USA, I would think that that we don't look at it that way. We want people to have choices. We have many restaurants. We have many competing sources. County Supervisor Andrew Doe, he did the Tet Festival in My Square Park, competing on the same weekend with the student association, and that's and he's been doing that for 3 years. It doesn't cause a problem for elected official. It causes a problem if we let that to cause us a problem. That's people who go to both that festival, even though it's on the same weekend.
If I may, nothing's for free. So I'm not sure I'm buying the idea that this entirely could be absorbed by this nonprofit. It sounds to me like you're going to bring forward your proposal, no matter what we discuss this evening, if that is the case, then I would need a breakdown of costs, whether it be staff resources and time, police department and fire resources. I would need to see a full breakdown of that. But I am very concerned.
There's a little bit of an issue of how much staff time and resources it takes just to prepare what you just asked for.
Right. Yeah, I hear.
That
Yes,
alone-
I hear you. I'm just
that alone is a
talking
cost
about.
and a drain.
We're hearing this for the first time, and it's very hard to wrap your head around what this would take and what this is like in one council meeting. So, but again, I completely agree.
I'm not, well, I mean, I think we have to contemplate whether we even want to commit that staff time and resources towards exploring something like that or not. I mean, I think that's a kind of a policy decision.
Well, I guess then I need clarification as, is this an item that we need to act on to agendize, or is Councilman Bowie is saying, is he bringing this forward no matter what? I need clarification on that then.
Well, the Vietnamese, I'm talking now as a chairman of the Vietnamese community, or the Tet Parade Committee chair. The committee have already voted and instruct me as the chairman of the Tet Committee to submit a formal proposal. When the city received the formal proposal, the city already received a preliminary proposal. So when the city received a formal proposal, I believe, staff will have to bring it up to the city council to ask for direction. What should we do about it? The city council can vote to instruct staff to analyze it, or or deny it, right, outright. And I think whatever the reason, it should not be based on political agenda. It should be based on, there's a righteous group, a group that have been doing the Tet Parade for 7 years. They would like to do it in Garden Grove, and they committed it to reimburse the city for all the costs, even for staff time when meeting with them to plan for the parade during the months to come. And that's what we have been charged by the city of Westminster, and we have paid for every single dollar or single penny of it. So I think the council will then have to decide whether they they approve it or they don't approve it, and I think that is likely to be what going to happen.
I think it's frustrating, though, because I feel like this has already gotten political this evening. We've had a lot of speakers come forward, we've had banners and people basically yelling towards us at the dais. So it is political, it has gotten political, it'll be political no matter what happens. Mm-hmm. And that bothers me, because I just had a gentleman walk out because we've taken this much time under matters, and I had something specific I wanted to discuss, a real issue that's happening in our city, which is STRs, that's affecting the neighbors and residents of my community day in and day out. And now I don't have the opportunity to talk to him because we're getting political up here. So I take offense to that.
Question for legal counsel. Since Councilmember Bowie is also the applicant on this thing, should he be participating in this? He's declared that we, the organization submitted this, whatever.
If I can remind the city council that the conflict rules apply to financial interests. So if it's not getting paid, if it's a nonprofit, it doesn't create a conflict. It may create an appearance, but not a legal conflict.
Okay. I'd still like to insist that when we're up here at the dais as Garden Grove council members, that we wear that hat and we speak from that first-person context, and not be up here representing other groups. We're Garden Grove city officials tonight.
Moving on, or are we still?
Well,
we don't have to take any action, right?
I'm not asking to agendize it. I'm just giving you, the city council, a heads up, right? So that we know what's going on.
Oh, I got a quick thing then I'll throw in. So recently, the county came through and sprayed for mosquitoes in the central and north and west parts of Garden Grove. Ever since they did that, the mosquitoes got 10 times worse. I'm getting calls and complaints and photos. In my particular area, the general consensus is they're coming from the base. I got some photos sent to me of the canals in the base, and there's all kinds of critters flowing them in and everything. So I'm going to ask city staff if they can send a letter to the Los Alamitos Reserve Center and ask that they address their mosquito problems on the base, because that's becoming a big issue for the west side of town. Evidently, they're exempt from the county and state rules, and so it would be nice if they took some enforcement application of their own, voluntary application, so our community isn't overrun with mosquitoes. The other thing I want to bring up, and I know I'm not going to steal any of Stephanie's thunder because I know she's got a whole lot, but since I've been elected, this is 10 months now. I've been on, and I've heard different folks come up here talking about this problem with the Airbnbs, and it doesn't appear to be getting any better. I know the city got that new software, and they're actually actively out there tracking and fining people, and we just had a couple complaining about it. But that just doesn't appear to be enough. At one point, about 4 months ago, a lady came up here. She complained about the B&B, and they're suing her now, and she's got to pay all the legal costs with that because she's, so, it really is a nuisance for our city. It's in more ways, our community, than more ways than one. So I'm kind of hoping that we can get creative and come up with some kind of a task force maybe for a limited period of time, 4 months or something, where we can just really go out and hammer these B&Bs and make an example. If that means bringing in a couple, 4 or 5 police officers involved with our code enforcement, and maybe that would be a good methodology or something. I'm just brainstorming here, but I'm sure Stephanie, I don't want to take her thunder, so I'm going to shut up.
Would my council colleagues permit me to go next, since
Please,
we're
go
on
ahead.
that vein
Sure,
of
sure,
conversation?
sure.
I appreciate that. Well, first of all, I want to thank the residents that came out tonight to discuss this issue. Obviously, it's been one we've talked about since I joined council. I've had many emails and phone conversations. I've held some community meetings with several of the people that are in the audience this evening and others. I've walked different neighborhoods, so I've been fully immersed in this for a number of years now. And obviously, the problem isn't going away, and we need to do more. So what I'd like to do first and foremost is I think we need to kind of re-educate the public, and I think ourselves as council, as to where we are at with code enforcement. So I'd like to direct staff to come back at the next meeting with an update of kind of what we've done, how this started, where we've been, where we're headed. And I'd also like to direct staff, I'd like to take it a step further, and I'd like to look at what outsourcing would look like. I think that whether it's a task force or whether we actually look at outsourcing and direct key people to this issue on a permanent basis until we can at least get this thing handled and cleaned up. We need to send a stronger message. We're not doing that right now, obviously. And the residents that are having to live with this day in and day out, that's hell. You need to know who your neighbors are. And in this day and age, it's a hazard, and the potential for crime and other issues in the neighborhood. They deserve to take their neighborhoods back. And we need to do more as a city to bring them back for them. So I need an update. I need to be better educated on this, not just for myself, but for my colleagues and for the public. We have to do more as a city. And again, I want to look at outsourcing for this potential problem.
On the STR, go ahead.
Maybe just a little discussion on the STR, because I think we all have an opinion. I think we even need to go a step further. We have a lot of ADU permits, and a person came here tonight and said, hey, it was a former Airbnb, and now they're adding a second unit in the back. And so we have to have common sense attitude towards this thing and enforce any of the restrictions we can enforce on an ADU. Have the owner is supposed to live in one of the units. We need to look better at enforcing that, because a lot of all our properties are expanding, more traffic. We need to look again at permit parking over near Anaheim border. That's a serious option for residents that own properties there. You can only get so many permits to park there, just like Anaheim's. I mean, if anybody was driving by there during the car show, it was a nightmare. It was a total nightmare. So it's not going to get any better. But okay, I'll let the attorney jump in. But
well, I know everybody wants to talk about STRs, but it's not on the agenda.
Okay, so I'll leave. I'll leave it there.
You asked. So do we need to formalize that?
We understand.
Do I need a vote for that?
Before we take it, I think under matter from the council, we can discuss anything. We just cannot. We just cannot take action. Is that right?
No, that is not right. So matters from council is either for you to ask your fellow council members to agree to agendize an item, or to provide information pertaining to your activities in the last 2 weeks. But the Brown Act requires that there be no discussion on items that are not on the agenda.
Okay.
I'll withdraw my request.
I think I was out of line in asking for direct staff.
No, I think you were heading there. So do we need to formalize that?
Do I need to formalize that with,
I mean,
can I just direct staff to go forward with that?
Does staff understand that that's?
We understand the
general
direction, and
smoke signal
we'll
saying,
respond to
"Please
that
give us-"
and bring back.
Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. John, do you have anything else?
I do
We'll
have
go
a
back
couple
around the
items.
horn.
I would like to.
Can I ask the attorney? We have a lot of residents come here, and they are very concerned. They seem to think that the city has not done enough relating to STR. Can you clarify to the public so that they understand what we have done and what we have not done, so that they understand that the limitation of what we can enforce and what we cannot enforce?
Yes.
Is that a legitimate question for you?
Well, I mean, SCR are prohibited in the city, period. Well, they're prohibited in the residential zones. They're allowed in commercial zones with a CUP.
Right. So how could the resident from what I'm hearing, Omar, let me finish up my question. From what I'm hearing, is the resident thought that how could we not enforcing it, and how could it continue to get out of control?
So we do enforce it, but until you get a ticket, then you understand the Fourth Amendment and the Constitution for both the United States and the state of California. So the government and the police cannot simply barge into people's homes and people's property. So we have to comply with a lot of due process. We have to have probable cause. Basically, your home is your castle. And so for the government to reach in, we have to comply with a lot of regulations, and so we have constitutional limitations on how we can enforce our ordinances. That is why we're always asking for evidence, because I can sue my neighbor for civil nuisance. That's a civil issue. That's not the government involved. But when the government is going to knock on your door and ask you to let him in, then there is constitutional limitations. And that is part of the problem. Part of the problem is that we need probable cause to even issue a citation. And then we have to prove with evidence that we as a government have the ability to fine you or to put you in jail. If we prosecute criminally, we have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you have in fact violated regulations. So that is part of the issue. And we have 6 code enforcement officers, and we have, I forget how many, single-family homes that could be rented. So that's the issue. So again, we can report on that when we come back.
I don't want a fragmented outlook I want the full package.
Sounds good. Point of order, let's not discuss this anymore tonight. We've already made it clear that we'd like to have a focused discussion on that at a following meeting. John, anything else?
So I had just a few items, and one was important. I wanted to put something on the agenda in 2 weeks, if you'll allow me to do that. Since I got elected, I've been wanting to do some things for the community regarding money that's spent in the city, capital improvements, development. So if you would allow me, I'd like to agendize just discussion for the next meeting, the possible action, a community workforce agreement with the Orange County LA Building Construction Trades. And this was just starting discussion about other agreements that are around us, but mainly for Garden Grove, what a community workforce agreement would look like in the city of Garden Grove. So discussion with maybe the staff would just pull up some reports from local cities that are already doing it, and then maybe a presentation by the LA Orange County Building Trades, and just to start the discussion on that. So I'd like to put that on the agenda for 2 weeks.
I'll second it.
Okay, that was my motion. Second. Any other? If any, okay.
We're good.
The vote.
Motion received, 7 yes votes.
Thank you. And then just real quick,
Councilman O'Neill, I just want to make real sure, clear from the expect.
Wait, Madam Clerk, it's so that I have no vote.
Yeah.
I vote yes.
Popped up yes on my screen.
Just want to make out certain, so it'll be agendized at the next meeting for discussion purposes. Is there anything you're expecting of staff to do between now and in the next 2 weeks?
discussion and possible action if we wanted to direct staff to spend any time or do anything.
But nothing between now and the next 2 weeks for the staff to do?
I think it would be wise to pull up some other agreements that are in Orange County with the trades group, so we know.
This is different? Is
Go ahead, go ahead.
I'm gonna jump in. So to clarify, could we suggest, maybe we have to take a vote again because I'm gonna amend this a little bit. I would like for staff to prepare an analysis of what the community workforce agreement would look like in Garden Grove and begin conversations with the LAOC building trades to move forward with this, bring something forward to council to review, and then we can discuss action at that point.
So that would be in
2 weeks.
2 weeks? Would this be?
Sorry, November, the first meeting in November.
First meeting in November. So I was just a little confused
Sorry,
because
yes.
Councilman O'Neill was saying community workforce agreements. I know there's been some thought about community benefit agreements too, so I was just a little.
Same thing.
Sometimes they
Same
can
thing.
interchange those things, the terminology.
I'm-
But yeah,
I'm clear now.
a month from now would be fine.
Yes.
But I would recommend that maybe if we could contact the trades and have them prepare a demonstration or a presentation.
Very good, I understand.
And then, real quick on my matters, wanted
Is
to.
that enough time, before you move on that? In fairness, it's a relatively complicated topic. Does that give staff enough time to?
I think, we're a little bit.
This is out of the blue to me. Typically,
Sorry,
these
I
things.
apologize.
Yeah.
I just wanted to discuss it, have it out and discuss it. I mean, there's no real urgency, but I think we need to at least get it out, agendize it and get it out in the public. Yeah, as soon as possible. I'm not, yeah. I know there's a lot of other things going on at the same time, so I understand that.
Yeah, the fact that the city council voted on it will come back as an action item. So yes, you can discuss it, but you'll have the option to take action on it as well, whether it be to give further direction, or not.
Okay.
Can we amend that? Can we amend that to November 12th, though? Because I think John said 2 weeks, and I think November 12th.
I'll amend my motion to reflect that, and then. Okay. Okay.
I don't know that you need to take action on that. Yes, you said 2 weeks, but I think that if we understand that bringing
soon
it
as
back first meeting in November is fine, we can just do that.
Okay, that's fine with me. Just real quick, I wanted to mention the OCFA has an open house here at Station 81, which used to be Station 1 right across the street, this Saturday. That is, I didn't write down the time, shame on me. But it is this Saturday. Come out to the station number 81, number 1, and come out and see your fire department. Then real quick, the Garden Grove Women's Civic Club has a holiday boutique. Plug for them. It's October 26th, so it's coming up real soon. If you need anything for the holidays coming up, please patronize those groups. It all goes to charity. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Tuha.
Well, I just want to say happy birthday to my mom over the weekend, and happy birthday to my son, who's going to turn 10 in a few days. And at the same time, happy birthday to everybody who have birthday in October.
Steve.
Oh, yes. I forgot the mayor. Happy birthday, mayor.
Where's the cake? Kimley.
Birthday's on Sunday, so happy early birthday. 2 things. I feel like I get a gold star today. For the individual who came to speak about traffic in my district, I've had many conversations with him. I have had many conversations with Public Works and our PD about this specific area. This is not the first time you guys have heard me bring this up during council. I think for the last 3 years, I've been griping about Roxy and Trask and then Haster and Lamson. But luckily, I already got my light in Haster and Lamson. A street light will be installed before the end of next year at Roxy and Trask. I would like to ask staff to look into putting a stop sign at Woodbury and Roxy, as well as the synchronization of the light at Roxy and Westminster per the gentleman's request. The second thing I would like to say is that staff and myself are coordinating a potential event with Congressman Correa and Lowenthal's office for a small-scale event on Veterans Day. So that's in the works and hopefully will occur, and more information to come if that gets set in stone.
Stephanie, do you have anything else?
No, that's going to do it.
Okay. Fat, do you have anything else?
Yes, just want to express my, best wishes for, Mr. Scott Stein and Councilmember Thu Han Nguyen on your trip to Korea. Have fun over there and report back to us in 2 weeks.
I think one quick general statement that I cherish that our city is different than a lot of our dysfunctional neighboring cities that have kind of weird political drama. I appreciate that where it matters, we've had a pretty good run here of shared vision which has resulted in a lot of productivity for our city. I would like to ask that we all continue to communicate with each other, keep on the up and up, and stay focused on the business of the city, doing positive things. An example of that nobody mentioned throughout this whole night, with a lot of weird things getting mentioned, I'll draw attention to, is within the last 2 weeks, we had the grand opening of Steelcraft next door to City Hall. It's a beautiful project. It's an amazing project. I commend our staff for all of their tireless efforts in that regard. We have a lot of super smart people over at City Hall that work incredible amounts of hours, overtime, weekends, all the time, and pour a lot of passion into serving this city and making the city a better place. Let's strive not to distract their attention away from the good things that they are doing. Let's strive to keep the city on track and forward-looking as we reimagine our city into the future of a large and diverse city that we've become. So I just ask that we all stay together on that regard, and let's not get goofy like some of our other cities. It scares me sometimes when things get brought up by surprise. It scares me when kind of ideas come up that appear to be divisive or contentious, and I would urge that we just contemplate what we're doing in the best interest of the people that we serve as Garden Grove council members here in the city. So thank you. With that, I'll hand it over to City Manager Scott Stiles.
No items, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We are adjourned. Oh, City Attorney.
Well, just really quickly, we did meet in closed session to discuss litigation brought by Oak Court. It's listed as threatened litigation, but we know yesterday they did file, and there's no reportable action out of closed session.
Thank you.